What is up, everybody? How are you all doing? We have another fantastic episode of the Explain It podcast coming up with such an incredible guest that we can't wait to introduce you to. My name is Stephen Hunt.
I'm Ingryd Hernandez.
And today we are going to be talking to our good friend and local flipper, Gem Montero, about building wealth, creating millions, doing all the cool stuff, dude. FYI, real quick too, you'll notice that me and Ingryd are going to be sharing a mic. We had some technical difficulties, so don't mind that side of it. But without further ado, let's get into this. Gem, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Move that mic a little bit closer to you, Gem. Get that mic pointing towards you like this. You want to kiss it, right?
There you go.
Yeah, just hold the tongue.
Okay.
Hold the tongue,
Okay.
please. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also just realized we had the door open.
Let me get it.
Uh,
I got it.
can you, we're out of sorts, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The technical difficulties played into this.
Yeah. All right. So, Gem,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on the podcast. So,
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I feel like I have a special attachment to you because when I first was starting real estating, like investing, we used to go to the Soul Pod meetups with, shout out to Templeton Walker and to, why can't I think right now? Mr. Miguel.
Miguel
Yeah.
Prado.
Yeah, I have so many M's in my life. My brother Michael, Mark, and so the M's are always hard on my brain. And that's how I met you. Like listening to your story, you were just getting started too, right? When I started going to those things, and then it was so inspiring. So maybe you want to give us like I've heard this story.
Yeah.
And it's totally okay if you want to do an abbreviation story.
Yeah, I'll try to.
Yeah. Like one of my favorite things that Gem used to say is like, I used to have the job where I used to just have to move my mouse.
Yeah. So that was, I don't even know what year was that. Maybe like almost 4 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so like Ingryd was saying, I'm a full-time real estate investor now, but I used to have a W-2. Which was I used to work for American Airlines during that time. I'm an immigrant, kind of like Ingryd. Came from the Philippines, moved here when I was 21, did all the, X amount of jobs that you can think of. But, like as we kind of like, get older, get married and have kids, we kind of, get to a point and kind of like, hey, there has to be something different. Right. Like, I think that's where all the crossroads happen as a real estate investor. Like we all want that lifestyle, not just for us, for our children. Right. So that's how I kind of like got into like real estate investing really. So,
yeah.
That's really awesome. So on that note of it too, was it everything that you thought it was going to be, or did it shake you a little bit?
It's all sunshine and rainbows.
Oh yeah.
It's like the lifestyle part is like, it's don't get me wrong, like we're all here to actually like make profit and money and provide, but it's not for everybody. It's hard, It's like it's really hard. It's like
I will say with the flipping though too, it is nice because you do get to make your own schedule to a certain extent. You're not necessarily dealing with as many clients. And this is a realization I had when I started businesses outside of flipping. Is that when I started having clients, I had people that I had to follow up with consistently. If you're an agent, you probably know about this. If you have any kind of business that's not real estate flipping, you probably know about this. If you have a clientele that you work with, is that you're always responsible for that clientele. So part of me misses the just being all in on flips side of it for myself, because I got to really enjoy the finishes that I was putting into these properties. I got to enjoy all that kind of stuff. And you just had a little bit more freedom. Now you do have timelines. You do have a lot that you have to manage. There's so much that goes into that. And I'd love to hear from you and know more about this on your side, because from what it looks like to the outside world, Gem, it looks like you are crushing unbelievably. Because you are crushing unbelievably. And I'd love to know, how did you perfect that system? I mean, you came into this world of flipping and you crushed right out of the gates, and you just kept going and going and going. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, like off the gates, like you're referring to, it's like, first off, like, like we all start as like, we don't know what we're doing. And, like we all have that base in essence, but like, there's community that you can tap into. It's like, which is like what you said, like shout out to Temp, like essentially what, helped me like kind of like open the doors for me where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's, you know, we used to own a company together. We're still, you know, really good friends and best friends. But yeah, it's like, and the flipping side, I kind of like, man, like the timing, luck, grit, it's like all that, like with the artificial, you know, like artificial market of 2020 and 2021, it's like all came in together and kind of like, it just propelled me in like in a, you know, like really like on an unbelievable like trajectory. Like,
Well,
I don't know how to even explain it. Like,
you came in at the right time,
Yeah.
but in order for you to get into something at the right
Yeah.
time, you also have to be prepared to
100%.
jump off that cliff.
Right.
And that's exactly the position you put yourself in. And so like all the right elements. And I would
Yeah.
argue that the same thing goes with Steven and myself is like you got around people who are actually doing the business, not just
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah.
And you figured out ways to work with them so that you didn't necessarily go it all by yourself and
Right.
take on 100% of that risk.
Yeah.
You shared that risk, and that's how you were able to move forward. Would you?
100%.
Yeah.
No, 100%. It's like, I always like tell everybody kind of like, you have to say yes as much as humanly possible, especially when you're starting out. Doesn't matter what it is. You have to say yes. And then eventually you can, you know, you can eventually say no. So every single opportunity, I don't care what it is, you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's, you know, that's kind of how you build momentum, and you use that momentum to carry you until you actually have, not necessarily earned the right, but until you can say no.
I would say, yeah, you earned the right. You earned the right to say no because you've now proven the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
You've now proven that you're stabilizing, have enough money in the bank, you know, all the things that would allow you to say no. But I'm with you. Like when you're in the hustler grind mode, it's like, okay, I will go show 10 houses in 109-degree weather
100%,
and then go look at properties I could potentially put offers in for myself. So
Right.
for those of you out there doing a little digital investing, like trying to transition, I also had a W-2.
Yeah.
And so I remember doing all three things.
I know. I remember calling you. It's like, hey, it's like, aren't you still working?
Yeah, I only transitioned this past March.
I know. I remember that.
Yeah. And I would argue I'm still kind of trying to get my shit together. Like, you know,
We all
like,
are.
hey, yeah. Does that ever go away?
If you aren't always trying to get your shit together, then you're probably not not going places.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
So backing it up a little bit there too, because you have had so much success, you got involved in the community. Ingrid and I have talked about this before in the past too, of you want to make sure you're getting around people. Like there's so much that I think that you and I even learn from each other, Gem. Like we message each other all the time on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. Gem's like, yo, how'd you get those porcelain backsplashes in there? Like what's the cost to actually fabricate? Like we're always going back and forth trying to swap resources, and you're such a valuable resource to us in our operation. And we're so grateful for that. Did you come into this space with a prior or a pre-existing knowledge of construction and how all of this kind of stuff works?
No, I actually I'm completely like, the most construction work that I've ever done was like doing it. It's not even me. It's like hiring people to do flooring in my house and painting and all that stuff. But I'm just like highly observative and, you know, kind of like just try to learn from everybody. You know what I mean? Ask questions, be vulnerable, and then literally learn from your own mistakes. You know, it's like, it's literally just trial and error. Obviously lean into like people like, you know, like you guys and our community, like, hey, I have this problem, or kind of have this like something, have an issue. Like, I wonder who can solve this.
Yeah.
You know, like, I wonder if I can make a phone call. That's where the community part, like, you know, it plays a big part.
Oh
yeah, 100%.
1,000%. Yeah. And any flippers out there, always, I'm always reaching out. If I see some cabinets that I knew I couldn't get for a price point that I wanted, I'm like, either you're spending too much money or I need to know where you got that resource.
Right.
So I'm always constantly, I mean, there's so many finishes that you do, Gem, that are just so phenomenal. And it's so great. And I can't wait to break that down a little bit more too, on how you're actually pricing everything out, how you're running the operation. But that brings us to the next point that I would like to bring up too, is how much has that operation changed for you since this 2020 time period? I mean, it was kind of like a rocket ship 2020. Right. I missed that. I didn't get to have any fun doing that. I got to get into the market when it was coming down. So I didn't get to live in this world where you probably got to get so much experience, probably had a little bit more forgiveness in the marketplace too, if you overspent a little bit or anything like that. So how different does your operation look right now comparatively to 2020?
So going back like 2020, it's like, I think my first full 2 years of like flipping, I think I ended up like doing like 70 something in the span of 24 months.
That's crazy.
70 something houses.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So like I'm going
like
on
actual flips, not wholesales.
Actual flips, like I'm separating the wholesale, like, you know, I'll wholesale here and there, but like, you know, including like, because that time too, it's like, you know, like if it's cleaning up, I can throw it off for patterns, they'll buy it. Yeah. So like that's kind of like kind of like a wholesale, you know, in essence. But like going back to that point, it's like around that time, it's like you can make a lot of mistakes in your underwriting. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I should have bought this like 5% less or 10% less. My budget was like off by like 10 grand, 20 grand. You can make up for it because people are overpaying because of like, you know, inflation, and there's just like the rates are so low. There's so many factors. But when the music stopped in like mid-June or late June of 2022,
we all know that date, by the way.
Yeah,
I know that date for 100% myself.
I can't remember that. June 23, 24, 2022.
Yeah. I was in the middle of getting a loan, and I was like, wait, but it was 5.25. What do you mean now it's 6.6? Right. And I think I ended up closing at a 7.25.
Exactly.
I was so pissed.
It's like overnight, like you're 2 basis points like change in like the next few weeks. Yeah. It's basically a swing of like 10-20%, and you're basically your profit margin is completely gone. So now you have to like kind of like readjust, kind of like, hey, we have to get rid of this shit that we have.
You can cuss.
But
it's bullshit.
But yeah, so
say
like,
it loud.
But now fast forward to like 23, and like right now it's like I was able to kind of like, you know, going back to the clarity portion of it, kind of like, hey, like now I'm doing it by myself the last couple of years. I don't have like partners or JV partners anymore. So it's like, how do I actually like get this more, not necessarily streamlined, but more clear, systematized. So I just kind of like got back, kind of got down to kind of like what kind of got me, kind of what brought me into this space. Like it's kind of like looking at the begin with the end in mind. It's like, how much do I actually need a year to live comfortably? It's like, for me, that's like my every single year I only look at like, I just need 10 houses that would bring in 50,000 net every year. That's $500,000 for a whole year. I know I'm going to end up with more than that, but that's the only thing I can, that's basically my North Star. I'm not looking at anything else. I'm running this race. I don't care what other people say. This is what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
It's like,
okay. I do have a question about this though. Yeah. First of all, when you gave me that feedback, cause I was like, how do I make this work? You're like, Ingryd, I'm sure you're thinking big, but think small first, right? Yeah. Like think like what is going to feed your family and you be okay.
Right.
And know that, and I think you put so much logic to it. Be like, yeah, Ingryd, you gotta do like, 7 to 8 flips. That was my number. And you're like, you're fine. And I'm like, oh, okay. That seems so manageable. But you also mentioned, so now that you don't have partners, so you don't have to divvy out that money either.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then it's okay, Steven. I still want to divvy money out with you. And I'll say too, there's some things about flipping that do not motivate me. So I'll give you an example. Like all the flips we've done this year between Steven and I, like I've brought those deals to the table because I love the underwriting aspect. Not that Steven doesn't underwrite, Steven underwrites, but like, cause that's another part of the partnership I really like too. Like we check and balance each other to be like,
best thing with like with somebody you can kind of
Yeah, yeah.
confide with, like,
Like,
hey,
why
am
do you
I-
think
am I
that
missing
ARV?
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we both land on the same ARV, we're
Right.
like, okay, cool, this is good. But if somebody
Yeah.
comes in 30K higher and
Right.
somebody's 30K lower, it's like, where's the discrepancy?
Yeah.
And being able to work through those things and being
Yeah.
like, hey, I've actually flipped in this neighborhood. The reason why I feel this is
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
this is my personal experience, vice versa type of thing where we
Yeah.
can play off each other.
Yeah.
But I just like the chase and hooking into something, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done.
It's
Like,
the deal. It's the deal finding aspect. of it.
yes,
See,
but
like,
that's me. He was talking to you about cabinets and shit. I'm like, just make it look pretty.
It's like,
yeah.
to be honest though, it's like the deal finding is like, or the deal turning it over is like the what's really. It's kind of like my in essence my weakness and the greatest strength too, because it's like I get to the deals that I probably shouldn't have. Probably shouldn't have bought this, but I'm like such a deal junkie too. So kind of like,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm getting bored. I have some dry powder over here. I'm gonna buy it. You know. Yeah.
So let's talk about that then too. What is, because every flipper has their own way of, what they need out of a deal to make it worth doing the deal, right?
Yeah.
You hear so many different theories from so many different people. There's people that flip, 40 houses a month out there that have a massive operation and they're looking to make
Right.
just a certain small spread, but they're doing it at volume. They're doing it
Right.
at scales. They're keeping their crews busy, all that kind of stuff. What does a good deal look like for you? So if you're doing an initial underwriting, what are you trying to make? You dropped 50K earlier, but what are you trying to make off of every single deal?
Yeah.
And then how much work rehab wise are you looking to do on these projects too?
Yeah.
Are you down with all full guts? Do you just want light cosmetics, throw some paints on there? What's that look like?
So in terms of like buy box, for example, it's like the way I look at it. I know there's like, kind of like not stereotypical kind of like numbers out there that kind of like, oh, you have to make like 10% of like ARV. That's well and good, but at the same time, you'll never buy a deal. So it's like, so the way I look at it, it's like, what's my cash on cash return on this? Like I always target like 30-40%. So if everything down payment to the hard money, for example, your carry cost, your rehab cost, if I deploy 100 grand, this better come back as 140 by when it's all said and done. So
Nice.
that's kind of how the way I look at it. So, and then in terms of like the extent of the rehab, I'm super picky in a way that kind of like I niche down to kind of like where I'm even doing my rehab. It's like if you send me a deal like in the West Valley, I mean most likely I probably won't look at it. But it's like
Send it over,
like,
bro.
I should send it to you.
You should.
But yeah, it's like I'm highly like niched down to kind of like where the.
Well, we'll make sure we
areas.
use Bedrosian through you
There you
if
go.
we do the West.
Your
Perfect.
favorite markets, by the way, are our favorite markets. It's
Yeah.
like where I'm always looking for deals.
Right. So it's more like, like I want the not necessarily safe, but I'm like willing to bet in these neighborhoods. It's like if shit hits the fan, I know this is still gonna sell. You know what I mean? So, like great neighborhoods, great school districts. But as far as the extent of the actual rehab, I usually won't, or I almost don't. Like if I have to like do an addition, not that I don't know how to do it. It's just the timeline actually to execute it.
You've had enough of the city.
Yeah, it's like, but so it doesn't matter if it's a gut job, whatever. It's like I don't really care. Like, but it like anything kind of like addition wise and doing more extensive work. It's like I try to avoid, because like I try to stick my construction to between 4 to 5 weeks, and then the 6th week I'm on market already. So,
Noted.
it's it kind of, like it. You kind of get to like the process and kind of like even your materials, like I have a lot of like materials that I just reuse essentially, but on that note, I'm doing a new build in downtown Gilbert, so but I mean every now and then you kind of have to like
spice it up
spice it up a little bit. It's like kind of like that's how you grow, you know what I mean? It's like kind of put yourself out there and test it out and see.
So great points. So are you now in a position, or maybe your wife Cammie, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you annoying her with all the materials you're probably keeping in your garage? But are you now to a point where you're having to buy in bulk? Like there's some things that you'll always need. Drywall, baseboards, like there's some materials that like every freaking time they're gonna
Yeah.
get, but like there's others where you do have a style. Like when I look at properties for sale, like because I'm an agent too, right? So I'd be
Yeah.
looking at properties,
this.
and then I'm like, did Gem do this house? Because this speaks of Gem,
I'm like,
you
who's
know?
the agent?
Yeah.
I'm like, I always like every time I see
Yeah.
like a whole Bedrosian's house on the market, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I was like, I think I know who did this one.
Yeah. So like where how are you managing those costs from your materials? Like what are
So
you doing?
material wise, like you guys said, it's like shout out to Bedrosian. Like I'm basically one of their biggest distributors in the country, but stocking.
No
kinda
big
like-
deal. Did you see how he
Yeah,
said that?
it's like
I'm
just
I'm
threw
just
it-
like the biggest
just threw it out
distributor. So
there,
okay,
but-
yeah, it's no big deal.
but yeah, like they're stocking kind of like anything. I do and I don't. It's like, it's like, but like naturally, like I have a lot of like overages and like tiles and stuff. But like the way I kind of like make sure it doesn't go to waste. If you kind of like pay attention, like not almost every house, like I try to use like almost the same exact
Mm-hmm.
like tiles or design,
Yeah,
So-
you got a brand.
unless I really want to change it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like that comes to the part like being clear as well. Like, like not just being clear in your
Goals.
goals, but like really being clear and kind of like what your product will look like. So in turn, it's like it makes it more simpler,
Yeah.
right? It's like you don't have to like make like 1,000 decisions. Like, hey, I did blue here, now I gotta do orange here and blue and red here. I mean, not that I don't do that, but I just choose to when I want to be creative in a certain like houses. Right now, I have 2 houses in the same neighborhood. They're gonna look the same exact because I already have the cabinets it's sitting in my garage. But so I'm like whatever. But like there's another house like about a mile away. Now I'm choosing to change it up a little bit on that house. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like
Is that red tile you're using?
that was a different one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's like
Yeah.
there's a great designers designing this. It's Joel Contreras designing that one. So
He's phenomenal.
oh, he's amazing.
He just won a bunch of awards with my friend Joey, who did that Skyview property
Right.
up in Camelback.
Yeah,
That was good for them. I mean, that thing turned out beautiful.
that's amazing.
I can count on Gem Montero 9 times out of 10 giving me a 5x5 Chloe white tile inside of a tub shower combo.
Oh,
That's how I
100%.
always know
70 square feet. You don't have to think about it.
every single
That's it.
time.
Yeah, 7 boxes.
By the way, Tino Luna shouting out the goat Gem. So
What's up,
Tino, you should be on YouTube. Yeah. So yeah. Well, and that's what makes you like an expert, right? Like this is where you start professionalizing yourself.
Yeah.
So there's a point where you're like, okay, I just did 70 flips, but you don't get to 70 without having some things that are constantly clicking.
Right.
And then really you can call yourself a professional or an expert in your space now.
Yeah, like I truly believe like at least I'm one of the best like in the country. That's my belief. Like, I don't care what other people thinks. I'm clear about my belief.
Mhm.
That's basically it. Like, like I'm gonna get into a deal. It's like regardless if that blows up in my face, I believed in it. So,
Yeah.
that's
I love that.
so
Yeah. Very cool. Huh. So
Love
do
that.
you sometimes collaborate with like other so you just said you're working with a designer. Like
Yeah.
what decision had to be there for you to be like, "Oh yeah, I'd rather work with a designer."
Bandwidth is one of them, and then there's certain kind of like houses kind of like that, like the Haver one that I'm that I'm
I'm
flipping,
so excited about
the Haver one that I'm flipping right now.
Yeah.
It's like I know there's like better people to actually take care of the design to actually like bring back the house to life. That I could like there's no way I can even like try to actually like do it myself, or even if I try to do it myself, it's like I have like 5 other flips that needs my attention. It's like it's kind of more picking and choosing your battles
Mhm.
in essence. Kind of like, do I have to worry about certain finishes over here if
Yeah.
I can rely on an expert
Yeah.
like to kind of like help me out in essence.
Do you
know
want
what
to
I mean?
do you want to tell the audience what a Haber house is?
So Haber houses, Ralph Haber's like a famous architect here in the 50s, 60s.
Mhm.
He developed like I don't even know, like all the purists out there don't, like
It's
I'm
really
not really
it's
sure.
really
I
a
can't remember
cut
how
and
many.
paste point of view, and I feel from what I recall, because I actually own one in Tucson, and I love that house. Like, if I could somehow move it to here in an area I want, like I would live in that house because it's so
Oh,
pretty.
they're
But
amazing.
but what he does is like a part of his natural way of designing was that he always made like a courtyard style, like where if you're in the kitchen or the living room, he put all the windows on one side, arch like architecture,
Yeah,
like
exposed
beams out there.
There's no attic spaces.
Right.
They're all flat
And you're
roofs.
looking in the courtyard from those spaces.
Yeah.
So
It's your quintessential mid-century
Mid-century.
modern,
Yeah.
what you would expect to see.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he
like, where's my
hit
cigar?
the nail on the
I
head.
need to sit here watch.
Exactly. And the design that Joel came up with for yours, I mean, is like it's
like
so
amazing.
phenomenal.
It's like I'm about, if I'm being like realistic, I'm about 4 or 5 weeks out. It's like it's starting to come together now. It's like it's like really nice.
Yeah,
it's like really, really nice.
I'd really like to see
it's
that.
like that one's like that one, like I'm super proud of. It's like how it's turning out.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. So my next question on this side of it too is, it looks like you're consistently at your projects. You are your own project manager.
Yeah.
From what it looks like, do you enjoy being the project manager? Do you enjoy being a part of all of it? Because I used to do the same exact thing, and then I eventually started outsourcing it to Anna. As you know, every time I put a tile order in with you, I always loop us three all in a group text together. For me, that worked because I wanted to build additional businesses.
Right.
I was okay with taking a little bit of a hit when it came to the money.
Yeah, like I actually do enjoy it, like kind of like going back to like being, clarity, right? It's like I know, like bandwidth wise, I personally can only handle like X amount of houses. Like I tried this 3 months ago. I had 9 going at a time. That was like
I've been there one time and I hated it.
that was like literally like don't even do it. Like it's a pain. So I kind of know my threshold, and then kind of like, if I want to scale when I get to, if I ever want to, like, which I know I've tried it before, you need a team, obviously. So, but like, I enjoy kind of like the space that I'm at, like, because like I have young kids. I want to make sure I'm there as much as humanly possible. You know what I mean? I take pride in taking them to school every day, picking them up every day. Like I work in between, like, not that I won't work like after hours, but like it's like a big part of kind of like my decision, kind of like being clear, kind of like, hey, can I realistically only need like this much every year. I keep saying 10, but like I'm already at 23 this year, but
you can't trust this guy.
But it's like I just don't stress myself, kind of like, hey, I need to reach this, because like it's an artificial number that we kind of all think we need, but you really don't, right? It's like, what am I gonna do with it? Like it's like, I'm gonna buy it. I don't even know what I'm gonna buy. Like I'm always at home, so.
Oh, you're gonna buy shoes.
Buy
I already
shoes.
know that. He's a little shoe. What do you call it? You shoe people?
Sneakerhead.
Sneakerhead.
That's
That's what it was. Yeah. But guys, if you're out there, make sure you're liking and subscribing to this podcast, and don't forget, Gem's here to answer questions. And I would argue some of the I'm either getting asked questions about how to wholesale or how to fix and flip.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even get a whole lot of questions about my midterm, my short term, none of the group home stuff, nothing. Like, I mostly get those two things. So if you have questions about fixing and flipping, I mean, we got an expert with this. So again, casually, he was like, yeah, I only need like 10 a year. Yeah. And we are just hitting the fourth quarter, and you're already at 23.
Yeah,
I love it though.
So
you humble,
like I said, like I
bragger
tried,
for
like
you.
I know kind of what I'm capable of. I know what my deal flow looks like. Like I know I'm gonna surpass like 10 no matter what. But like I don't kind of like stress myself. Like,
you know where you're level setting with yourself.
Right, yeah.
Like, hey, your aspirations.
Right.
Especially when and I love this though, you've gotten clarity, because what you've prioritized for yourself right now is spending time with your family and enjoying that time. And my kids are 17 and 15, and I
Right.
have to fight with them to come hang out with me now.
Right.
You know, so you only have like right now
Right.
until they're like 13, 14.
Mm.
Sorry, Jem, you've got like 5 years left.
So
or
I have
something.
like I have that many years. Like
Yeah.
maybe at that point, like I changed my mind. You know what? I'm gonna crank it up and like do something else. You know, like
Mhm.
but it kind of like this is my season of life, and I'm running my own race. This
Yeah.
is, you know.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Now let's get more tactical again.
Okay.
Because I know that's what a lot of our audience is going to want to hear.
Ooh, this is a good question.
What does it look like for you when you're going to flip a house though in terms of rehab? Because if there's anything that I've noticed, it seems like every single day and every single house that I do gets a little bit more expensive every single time. And I'm like, man, I started off doing a dollar a square foot for flooring install. Now we're at $2 some cases, depending on the flooring. It could be a little bit more even, you know?
Yeah. Ooh, controlling the cost.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jeremy. I appreciate that. I think he was talking to me. I'm
It
not
was
sure.
for sure me.
Okay.
I think it's like one, try to use the same trays as much as possible, depending on schedule. And you kind of like obviously like it's built in relationship, right? It's like I can't remember who was I talking to yesterday. It's like, hey, I gave you this for example, like tile, right? Like if I have like 5 houses in like literally 1 mile radius, you can't charge me for let's say 5,000 every single house. You can't we gotta have a common ground here, because it's like the next house I'm gonna give it to somebody else if you keep charging me this way. It's not about breaking balls in essence, but it's like, hey, we gotta help each other out over here, so I can keep giving you this consistent like essentially like deal flow.
Uh-huh.
So like that, and then kind of like more like tactical in essence. Like I literally just try to like stay not over design, but at the same time like keeping a good product, and that I know what the cost will be or is. But at the same time, it's like really hard to kind of like if wood lumber goes up, like you can't really do anything about it. That's the
Right.
hardest part. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
labor is the biggest one for me
Yeah.
that I've seen. Just a little all over the place. I've had projects because I wasn't doing as many cosmetic flips.
Yeah.
I was the dude that was like, let's go get the crappiest house on the street and let's do a full gut. Let's add an addition. Let's get the permits. Let's do all the things. I have the patience for that. And it usually had a better return or better reward at the very end. Right. But even during those flips, there would be situations where I'm like, get closer to the end. Okay, this is what the original budget was for tile. That's what we were quoted.
Right.
Oh, dang. Now it's going to be $700 more because of X, Y, and Z is happening. So I've even had that happen. What does your average cost on? Let's do an average standard home. Chandler, Gilbert, those areas, you're not moving walls. You're just doing mostly cosmetic, all the tile, all the beautiful things you do.
Yeah.
What does that average cost look on like a 1,500 square foot house, let's say?
1,500 square feet, just cosmetic, not
Material and labor.
Calculations
material and labor,
happening right
not landscaping.
Landscaping is a separate line item for sure.
Oh,
Yes.
I heard you asking. Do you
I know.
put $7,000 aside for landscaping?
Jim and I talk about this all the time. I'm like, what'd you pay for this? I'm like, there's no way this was less than $8,000. He's like, it was 11, bro.
Yeah, I know. It's like the rocks are like really expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's 1,500 square feet, just like literally like cosmetic. I would say between 40 and 50. You know, it's just
We need to figure this shit out.
Yeah, our cost, I know where some of our costs get a little bit pricey. It is the tile. I know you have great hookups on the tile,
right?
And the tile install. It's that and fabrication for slabs.
I got a good fabricator.
So those are the only two that we end up. What's the average cost? Let's say you're doing a kitchen house like this, right? For slabs and install.
Slabs would be, let's say, $2,000 with taxes, and then install will be another. This is with sink, maybe like between $2,200 and $2,500. So you should be right around under $5,000.
Yeah,
give or take.
Okay,
we're with the whole house.
Off.
The whole house.
Okay, and then we have a couple of good questions from the Instagram. McCall D or D McCall, excuse me. We definitely encourage you guys to join us on YouTube. And the YouTube channel is either my YouTube channel, which is my name, or Steven's YouTube channel, which is his name. But D McCall wants to know, I think they had 3 questions. All right. How do you minimize the tax burden that comes with all those flips?
Tax burden. I'm not a CPA.
You're like,
right?
I just pay them.
No. So
Okay.
basically, I actually like started. So I kind of started learning this like 2000, like 3-4 years ago. You kind of have to know, kind of like around mid-year, you kind of have to like project, okay, how much money I'm gonna make over here. There's no minimizing the tax burden. It's active income. Like it is what it is. If you make $1 million, you made $1 million. Now you have to, there's so many strategies over here, like in the real estate space. It's like, but like more towards the end of the year, right around this time, like I started kind of like, hey, do I need to buy a house to keep? Like I know I'm gonna bury capital, 40, 50 grand, and for example, but like, do I bury that capital, refinance it? I own the asset right now, and then like, I can't remember that, cost segregate it for like my 2024 taxes, for example, and then as opposed to like writing a check to the IRS, like for that same 40, 50 grand, it's like, no, I'd rather bury that 40, 50 grand and then like, write a check.
So if I could speak, Gem, for a moment.
Yeah.
So when you say bury that 40, 50 grand, like regardless, you're going to have to send that 40, 50 grand somewhere. So are you going to send it to the IRS, or are you going to buy yourself an asset and leverage the depreciation you're going to have to do on it?
So like when I say bury the capital, so I'm essentially like alluding to like the burst strategy, right? So like buy, renovate, I don't even know I can't remember. Rent, refinance, repeat.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
So I kind of like use that strategy because I know when I refinance it, I'm not gonna be able to like recapture my whole entire cost in it. So more times than not, I'm gonna have to like trap capital there. It's the same exact kind of concept as like buying a rental straight, like 10, 20% down. It's the same kind of like principle, but you just do it in a different strategy. So
for some flippers out there, you might know this as flips gone wrong, right? It's the ones that weren't selling on the market, so we decide we're just going to keep those ones sometimes, right? Hey, we know there's equity in this. We know it's going to appraise at this price. We're not getting offers. Let's keep this one, and it'll at least help out our tax situation at the end of the year. That's the way I always look at it. If I can always, I definitely have some deals that I did not want to keep, but you know what? I haven't paid taxes over the last 3 years. We've had no federal or state.
Let's like clarify that. As investors and fix and flippers, we still pay a shit ton of taxes. We're paying property taxes, sales taxes on materials. We got to pay like all kinds of taxes, car taxes. We are taxed up the yin yang. So we have to leverage the tax code to our favor.
Right.
It only makes us better custodians of the money we have to manage. So yeah,
because it's like, and then there's so many strategies there. Like I said, like I'm not a CPA.
Yeah.
But like you got to set up your your company as as an S corp, be an employee of that company,
pay a reasonable
salary, take advantage of like every single like tax break that's on the book. It's like there's so many things out there, like Section 179, and it's like that's how you actually like kind of like minimize your
buy a big old car,
buy a car every year, and
drive a cool Denali like Gem.
Yeah. Are all your contractors sent a 1099?
Should, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna I'm not gonna like lie about it, because it's like, I mean, I use Zelle all the time. I'm not gonna chase like a contractor that I sent like 800 to. It's like, I know I have an argument with my CPA all the time about it. My bookkeeper, it's like, you need a 1099. It's like, I don't have it. I've only used that guy once. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So I'm not even gonna. If you can get to a point, I know if you're like a lot of like big builders, like it require this 1099. It's like you get to a certain point that you kind of like need them. You kind of like streamline that process. Like, hey, if you're going to work for me, I'm going to ask you for 1099. That's great. But in reality, it's like when you're starting out, like I wouldn't really even worry about any of that part.
Guys, he's an immigrant, so just take caution. Yeah.
So
So Tino has a question. If you want to,
Go ahead. Okay, let's see here. So Tina Luna says, do you scope every prop before you close, or only if it's older?
Oh, depends on the year, the year built, but it's actually really inexpensive to scope a house. The sewer scope, what Tina's referring to, it's like $150. So it depends, give or take. I would recommend to like always scope the main sewer line. Like it's like I said, it's essentially just like a drop in a bucket, just to like be safe, because you don't want to have a completely remodeled house. You have a $10,000 flooring out there, and then you get to the bins here, and you get hit with like, hey, we need a new sewer line. Now you got to rip your flooring, and it's just
not worth it.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Yeah, I think we've all
2 or
been
3
there.
times. Yeah, great question. So just to clarify that, you are scoping this before you even get to close.
No.
You're doing it
Well,
after you close.
ideally, like don't because like I said, like I'm experienced enough that kind of like I just bake in my numbers, kind of like, hey, if I don't see anything here, like if I'm just like it's just like, hey, I just added 10 grand to my net profit.
Yeah.
But I always just like like account for that. But in the beginning, ideally you get to scope it prior. But like for me, it's like sometimes majority of the houses that I buy, I don't even walk them. It's just not advisable. I want, I don't.
This is a professional now, guys. He's a professional.
Like,
so
don't ever do that in the beginning. But it's like you just gotta get used to it and just scope. And when you get there, it's more for peace of mind than anything really at that point.
So even though you're not walking them, you're still accounting for the things that are atypical of that neighborhood. Because I actually was going to ask you, you are so like bullish on Gilbert.
Yeah.
Which I mean makes sense. Like Gilbert's always going to sell.
I live there.
And he lives there, so it's easier. But man, the foundation problems in Gilbert.
Foundation is
what a trucker. Like what do you do about that?
So I just kind of like know in a certain cross streets in Gilbert, I know there's always going to be foundation issues, right? So like at some point, ideally you try to walk them, or at least like verify it in the pictures. You kind of just make sure you're looking at the right things that you can give you a clue. So, but it's I'm at a point now, like I said, like if I do 20 houses this year, for example, I'm not gonna bat 100. I'm not always gonna make money in all of them. One of them is gonna be a shitter. I mean, I don't know. It's like that helps with my taxes. So I mean,
yeah, right.
Hey, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
That's not advisable, and like obviously, but like I don't. Yeah, like if I make a mistake, like I said, like I believe in this deal, and then if I'm wrong, and I just like chalk it up as a loss. It's like it's I'm not overthinking like certain things. I just like
Emotionally, you're completely detached from that side of the money of it, though.
Yeah,
it's I feel the same way. It's something that you have to go through the first gut punch.
Yeah,
and make it through the first gut punch, go on to the next deal, make money, make that money back up to go. Oh. You just have to always keep the ball rolling is what I tell everybody. Yeah. And I'm sure you feel the same way where 100%. It's like, well, yeah, if you do 1 to 2 deals a year and you lose on 1 to 2 deals, then you're never going to want to ever do this again. Right. But if you did 23 deals in the year and you lost on 2 of them, then you're probably coming out way, way ahead.
Right. Yeah. Like it almost doesn't matter. But at the same time, you still kind of like, when you're underwriting, you still want to bake in all those like,
typicals,
like typicals in a certain neighborhood. Like I buy old houses, like in Central Phoenix, 100-year-old houses. I gotta account for like every single thing. Like it doesn't matter, if it looks good. Most likely, I'm gonna have to rewire the house. Like that's just the way it is. They're 100-year-old. They're 100 years old.
So do you have one going on right now?
I have one in Coronado Historic right now.
Oh, this isn't my laptop. I wanted to pull it up. Can we pull it up? No, can we?
I should be able to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And did you sell that Fountain Hills one too? Because that was kind of a little bit outside of your.
Not yet. Like it turned out really good, but I'm learning now, kind of like, oh, it's a different market. It's a different market out there. Different buyers out there.
Mm-hmm.
Traction wise, is getting a lot of traction. It's like
Yeah.
almost every day there's showings.
Well, because you're now getting into this I think I was allowed to call them because we're agents, right? There's
Yeah,
some
yeah.
words you can't call people,
Yeah,
but you can say seasonal
right.
visitors,
It
seasonal tenants.
it feels like it's a 55+ community.
Oh,
if I'm being
100%.
honest. Right.
Fountain Hills all
Yeah, 'cause
throughout.
I get it. Like as an actual consumer, right? It's like I'll go to Scottsdale, which is 5 miles east or so.
Completely different market.
Yeah, right. Like it's
Yeah.
even if it's the same price or like a little bit more before I
Yeah.
even considered that area.
Yeah.
So it'll sell.
What's the property that you're referring to, Ingrid, that you wanted me to look
Oh, the historic. I love Gem's historics. Or maybe we could pull one that you already did that you're so proud of. Let's pull it.
at? Yeah, like
Shoot.
Redfin or something then.
Okay,
Yeah. It probably will be. Yeah.
let me see.
Sorry. I want you guys to all know that this is what you want. If you're gonna be a fix and flipper, like you want people to know you for the quality of product that you put out there, and that excites people like me. Or again, I don't do the design stuff. That's Steven, but you still have such respect for some of the work that you do.
Yeah.
So-
Oh yeah. 100%. So
Mhm.
do we pull up like what?
Pull up.
Pull up. What is it?
Which one? The historic one?
Which one is your favorite historic you've done?
Shoot. I don't even know. Well, let's pull up the last one that I did.
Okay. Okay. Last one.
1016 East Sheridan.
1016 East Sheridan.
Yeah.
Okay, Phoenix. Let's see if we got this.
Is that right?
I'll share the screen.
Yeah. Share it. Oh,
That's what it looked like when he finished.
It's dead.
so the wrong pictures.
Landscaping. Let's see here.
Oh, you didn't spend money on the
Sometimes
landscape.
Unless it got taken out.
No, I got
that's
taken
not
down.
It
Yeah.
probably did get taken
Yeah.
down.
Oh, there we
never
go.
mind. There you go.
There you go.
Okay, let me share my screen, guys.
I don't know how much a microphone is catching, so I'm like, there we go. And
Boom. Check this out.
So this was designed and listed by one of my good friends in the industry too. His name's James Judge. You guys probably know him. So like that, like kind of when you're asking me, it's like when do you actually ask for help for like certain designs? It's like on this one, I actually asked my friend James because like I know, can I do it? Sure, but at the same time, it's like there's a level of kind of like care that James like specializes.
Like that. Look at that kitchen.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like that I can't even envision. Like, that sometimes you have to like trust the experts and like help you out in certain.
Yeah.
you
And
know.
this looks staged too.
Right.
So when do you make a decision to stage a house, or do you stage every house?
Every
Like,
house I stay
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
every house.
Mm.
Especially this market.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
That's good. That's a good tip for me and Steven because we do not stage.
Unless
and-
it's like completely like straightforward layout wise.
Yeah.
But even then though, it's like, I look at it in a way kind of like, do I spend a couple grand or whatever it may be to like stage a house and sell it, like potentially give it a best chance to like sell quicker? It's like it kind of makes up for like the holding costs and all this
Yeah.
stuff,
So I love it. Like you're like, let me sell it faster. I was gonna spend this $2,000 anyway, but let's spend it, so you heard it here, guys. Like Gem saying, stage it. It's gonna help you sell faster and it's gonna be
Yeah.
more attractive.
Right.
It's like, when you go date a girl like me, like I don't really do my hair. But like the girls who like
Shout out,
go
Mark.
yes, thank babe. But like the girls who like, put a little bit more effort. Maybe they got some cute heels on or whatever. Like they're going to attract more people.
Well,
So yeah.
Let's take a look at this house just in general too, in terms of staging, right? When you first come into this property, it's really cool because it feels like it's lived in. It feels like home already. You look through these photos and you're like, wow, I can really envision myself and my family living here. It already looks like a family does live here. This is so beautiful. And the reality of the situation is that most people don't have an eye for design that are out there. So if you're able to give them that vision and you're able to put that in their head so they feel like they're coming up with it, they can see it all right then and there. Not everybody can walk into a house and go, oh my gosh, I'm going to put the restoration hardware couch right here. I'm going to get the cloud couch and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Most people can't do that, right?
Wow.
So you need to give them something to actually visualize and actually see when they're going into those spaces, and how to utilize the space as best as possible too. Because I'm sure we've all had our fair share of funky, weird layouts to where you're like, I don't know if there's enough room here for. I don't know if there's enough room here for a dining area. I don't know if there's enough room for this. How can I make this unique? And having a staging company to do that for you helps tremendously.
100%. No, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. This is beautiful. That was a beautiful one. I appreciate you sharing that one.
Now, you did say something, Gem, that I'm very curious about too. Hold on, I gotta stop sharing this screen.
You can just okay.
See that? You said something that was interesting a little bit earlier too. We talked about the average cost for you is around 40 to 50K. Let's call it 50K to make it an easy number. You also said that you want to make 20 to 30% on your money. Now,
30, 40.
In our world and what we do in most cases is that we're always raising private money. We're always using other people's money for this. When you say that you want to make 20, 30, 40% on a flip for the money that you're putting in, are you using your own capital?
Yes and no. It really depends. I raise money too. I'm a little bit different. Like I try as much as possible. Like I will just keep using my own money, which is probably not ideal because you get to a certain point. The only way to scale it not even like scale in in the big way, like to be able to do like multiple deals at a time, you have to actually leverage other people's money. So like I still do, like it's like it's hard because like I budget like every single house. Realistically, you're gonna need 100,000. That's really what it is though. It's like it's plain and simple. You need 100 to 125,000 on a $500,000-$600,000 house, including everything that you're gonna spend.
And that's the ARV you play with, right?
Yeah, that's the ARV that I play with, and then obviously it goes up when you go up to like over $1 million and all that stuff. So,
and that's factoring in holding costs. It's factoring in to make sure Gem's not coming out of pocket in the middle of a flip when he has his own bills due, that he's making sure that everything's covered. I'd say it's the same in line with us too. I think there's very, very, very rare situations when we ever raise less than 100. And in fact, anytime that we've ever raised less than 100, somebody's always coming out of pocket from somewhere. I'm like, I'll take it out of my HELOC. I'll send you. Okay, swipe this on the credit card. Can you do credit card payment this time, Mr. Contractor? Like, you're playing that game.
Yeah, it's like it's a tough balance of kind of like managing capital, capital preservation and all this stuff. It's like like nobody teaches you this in flipping. It's like it's like raising. There's actually like ups and downs too, like raising capital. It's like it's cool. Like we're at a spot that we can raise capital. Like we can all raise like whatever like tomorrow. It's like
let's raise whatever tomorrow.
Yeah, it's like
do it.
It's
do it tonight at the meetup.
It's an actual blessed spot, but at the same time, it wears down on you. It's like if I have like 1 million of somebody's money, it's kind of like it's an elephant like sitting on your head.
He sounds like Kevin Cho.
Yeah.
So I just watched a podcast. Shout out to Kevin Cho, who essentially quit real estate for now. Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Did you watch that episode?
I saw that, yeah.
He had the same dilemma.
It's
was
different though.
But correct, it is different because you're pushing through it, right?
Yeah.
And he left that with a responsible person, but I never even thought to think through how much do I have out. However, I did have one of my private money lenders at one point. I did have $500,000 of his money out. And I was like, I didn't think about it that way. I thought I was like, wow, good on him that I could have this much of his money and he thinks I'm that responsible. But I wonder what that is within us, right? That like we feel the burden rather like, wow, instead of maybe
giving them an opportunity.
Yeah, the proudness, like the proudness of like, I'm proud of me, I'm like Snoop Dogg right now. I'm proud of me. I'm proud of me for putting he has that plane like because I'm proud of putting in the work that like somebody could entrust me with that much of their money. I'd like to thank me
for putting in all the hard work. I'd like to thank me for staying up those extra hours.
It's a blessed spot, like kind of like people trust us to kind of like, hey, I want you to take my money and capital to like make whatever return. But like I said, like me personally, like I carry it, like kind of like shoot, you know, like I've never lost anybody's money. Like even when the market shifted in 2022, like shout out to Tim, like we both lost $1 million, but whatever.
I took some heavy hits that year. Yeah.
But it's like, I'm proud of like literally like saying like I lost my own money during that time. It's like not everybody's money, but it's like when I'm using other people's money, I carry it. Like I said, like I'm not gonna lose anybody's money. I will lose my money. I will live in somebody's basement before I even like lose
you heard
a
that,
penny.
Cammy? You're living in a
No, she
basement.
knows.
That's so I view it the same exact way. I know Ingryd does as well.
Yeah.
We've never, even the houses that we've lost on, that I've personally lost on, that Ingryd's personally lost on, always pay back our private money lenders no matter
100%.
what. So at the end of the day, I'm coming out with my own money on that loss no matter what, even though I used their money. I know it's supposed to alleviate the risk on that. I'm like, but then you have ruined your reputation with private money lenders. And I'm like, so now it's like, it's a catch-22. I was like, I'm still technically taking the risk. In fact, I'm paying money for carrying this. If I just had the cash myself, why would I not just do that? Because now I'm more profitable.
It's like it's a big dilemma too, kind of like, you know, like we needed to scale at a certain like extent, but at the same time, there's like a big responsibility, like having that on top of your head.
Yeah.
But
it's actually a good thing that you think that way because you understand that it's important. It's not something you just like, you know, throw to the wind.
Right. But there's also kind of like going back to kind of like, you know, having failures like a couple of years ago, not just like all success. It's like knowing kind of what your true character is and kind of like, hey, you know, I'm not losing anybody's money. Or if I'm going on a deal and we're kind of like, hey, if we're going to go on a deal, like this is 50-50 from the very beginning, you just like lay it all out. If this loses money, we're losing money. It's like, that's a different story. Like that's, you know, like, but if you're actually taking capital, kind of like a gap funding and all that stuff, that's completely separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, for sure. One thing I will call out, like, the fact that all three of us got through 2022, I'm proud of us.
Oh, 100%.
I'm proud of us. Like
100%.
to use your language, I had to bury 80K in a property, my Haber home actually. And then and then we lost 55K on a flip, but I lost it, right? Like not my PML.
I've been debating posting this for a couple of months now. I sold my old house, my rental. Oh, I did it. It was my old personal house, a rental. I had a HELOC on it, but I used that HELOC to literally just like to like basically like eat all the losses, right? Which is, it's part of the game. You know? It's like really what it is.
It's a smart move,
right? Like, and I sold my old house. It's, you know, I had all this memories with my old house. It's like I still made money when I sold it because like I had a lot of equity on it. But it's like, I saw your video. You're not tied into that identity of a certain house or whatever it may be. It's like, I'm not married to any identity or any kind of like, as much as it sucks that I have to like do certain things, you got to do what you got to do to stay in business. You know what I mean? You know, like with you have, you know, like being, just doing the right thing, like in any given moment. You know?
For sure.
I like that you brought it up too, but it's true. You have to, there's an ego aspect to this when you get into flipping that you have to drop if you truly want to be successful. Because when you get into flipping and you start doing flips and you make some money, you're like, I'm a fucking flipper, dude. Like, I am so cool. I live this lifestyle. I do what I want when I want. I just made a 60K rip over here, 30K over there, 100K rip on this house. And then shit hits the fan, and you have to be able to work through that. And if you attach yourself too much to all the success that you're having and the image that you're putting out to everyone, it's like that's a personal hit that you're gonna take, and it's 100%. Gonna be very hard to overcome when you run into actual challenges.
The hardest part of like being an entrepreneur, it's like literally you're, especially like a solopreneur, like you're basically just like dealing with yourself. Like there's nobody that you can actually like. They kind of like there's always like books and videos there to teach you how to get rich, but when I can't remember where I heard this from, but when you get to that spot, nobody teaches you how to navigate that part. It's kind of the same exact way, kind of like, okay, you're flipping, you're making money and all this stuff, and now you lose, or now you're kind of like have to pivot. Like nobody teaches you that.
Well,
like,
I think part of that is the kind of character and the values you carry.
Yeah.
And kind of like when people say when you make a lot of money, it doesn't change you, it just enhances who you are.
Right.
And that goes into when you're losing that money too, where it's like that character is tested. And are you going to have the kind of character that has the integrity of making people whole? And by the way, when you are a private money lender, you are also taking a risk. So to say that every single time you should get paid out, that would be irresponsible of me.
Right.
But, you know, and I know this has happened quite a bit, especially with the market doing what it did to us the last couple of years. But it's like, communicate, come up with the plan, figure, like, keep, like, for me, my brand matters, and like having people trust me. Steven is the same. It's why we were so like connected to get into business together, because we carry the same values and I think a lot of the character aspects of our personality, especially
in this space, like your name, your values, your character literally walks in the room like way before you even do. So
there's very few people that I can look at in the industry where I'm like, you are a good person, you would never screw me over. Like there's just a handful of them, and those are the people that I stick to. Like if I see you at a meetup, if I see Gem Montero at a meetup, I'm hanging out with Gem Montero. You know what I mean? There's other people in the industry that I'm like, we don't really need to talk. I don't have anything bad to say about you, but we don't really need to hang out. I'll give you a fist bump as I'm walking by, but like that's all we're getting to. So I know we're getting close to wrapping up here. I do want to know if you can give people a little takeaway here. What is a quick way? So if somebody is looking to get into flipping, you can get so lost in the sauce when it comes to underwriting and understanding what that looks like and understanding the true cost of things. Do you have, and I'll give you an example of what we do, but do you have a simple way that you can quickly underwrite a deal and you go, okay, this is something that's worth analyzing a little bit deeper? Or do you fully underwrite every single deal that's brought to you? Because for me, I do an 80% of whatever the ARV is, right? I do 80% of ARV, then I subtract $55 per square foot of whatever house they're sending to me, because that's typically going to get me a full gut on the interior with some light exterior work.
So you basically land, I think a good rule of thumb is still like that. Like a shoot for the 70 cents, like 70% of ARV, and then you kind of like adjust from there, like depends on how good or bad the house is, right? It's like if I can, if I can just paint it and then list it tomorrow, for example, and I'm getting in there at like with the 25% equity already, I mean, that's a no-brainer. Right. But it's like you can kind of like use that as a gauge. It's between 70 and 75. I would say 70 though, as a safe number. You just adjust plus or minus from there. Like just depends how good or bad the house is. Like the extent of the actual work that it needs. So if
I don't see $110,000 to $125,000 spread between ARV and sale, like selling it to me, I'm not even looking.
That's actually it. The $100,000 spread is actually like a good kind of like a barometer too. Kind of like if I see it, like you said, like it's a $500,000 house, even your underwriting is hey, I don't even go 1 mile. Like I literally just like try to hone in the neighborhood if I can. But if it's like you said, like if it's $500,000 house and they're selling to me for like 380, all right, you're kind of making me interested. Right. And then you kind of like, now you kind of like, plus or minus, kind of like, okay, how good are, do I need a roof? Do I need an AC? It's like, that's like a quick way to actually like ballpark it. Hence, you have to like be really, really, what do you call this? Dialed in on the neighborhoods you're doing this. Like on. It's like, if you send me a deal and like, I mean, a lot of people make money in Maryville. I have no idea. Like, I've never done a Maryville deal. It's like, I know it works, but it's hard for me to kind of like even do that, for example, right? So
I'm making some good money on a Maryville deal, but that was a one-off. That was an anomaly. I actually leverage that, and this is what you guys should be doing with your own community too, right? Is like me and Gem are friends, so there's deals sometimes where Ingryd and I'll go, maybe we want to sell this one off. We'll see if somebody else wants to buy it. The Mesa one that closes on the 22nd. In terms of the flip being sold, all that kind of stuff. So it was funny because we sent it to you, or I sent it over to you, and I was like, hey, would you want this at this price? And it was $20K more than what we were technically going to lock it up for. We're like, hey, just, we don't need the extra work. Let's just see. If Gem wants it real fast, Gem can do it real fast. This isn't his market. And you came back and said, I would need it at this price. And it was the exact price that we had it at. And I was like, okay, that's a good barometer for me to know
Yeah.
at least I'm doing my underwriting correctly, because other
Right.
people in the industry that I know that are doing similar things
Yeah.
are finding the same exact numbers.
Remember,
100%,
if it's
yeah.
not a hell yeah, it's,
It's
a
a
hell
hell
no.
no.
All right, cool. Well, I know that we've kept you past the time, and if you guys were one of the lucky ones that got a ticket, we also have kidnapped Jim for like the rest of the day, basically. Maybe he'll go and take us to these beautiful houses he's in the middle of. But tonight we have our in-person meetup, the Explain It podcast after hours. And I know there were some really juicy questions that were asked. And I was like, you know what? They just better be at the meetup, because that's, I think, where we'll answer those additional ones.
Yeah.
We really, really appreciate your time. But Gem, before we sign off, if somebody has a juicy Gilbert deal or one of those really nice historic flips, like, where do they get a hold of you so they can send you some deals?
My Instagram, or like, I mean, my Instagram is there too, and you can send me a message. I think my phone number is on my Instagram too.
Is it at Gem Montero, your Instagram?
Yeah, at gem.montero.
Okay, we'll throw it up. So if you guys have a deal, know that he is a legit buyer. He's amazing. We love talking business with him. We love they love exchanging design. I'm like, no, let's just talk about the deal. So that's great. This is awesome. We thank you so much for our first, triple in here. Yeah, which is cool. Yeah.
Awesome. No, thanks for having me. No, love it. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Without further ado, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you are on next week, every single Wednesday at 1 o'clock, except for on the 23rd. It's going to be at 12 o'clock. But every single Wednesday at 1 o'clock, we're going to be on the Explain It podcast. And the second Wednesday of every single month, we will be doing an in-person meetup here in Arizona, most likely on the East Valley. Go ahead, join us. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you can get notified when we have new videos coming out. Make sure that you're subscribed to us so you can get in on all the fun and you can meet cool people and talk to cool investors like Gem Montero.
All right. Thanks, guys. So we'll see you next time.